Welcome to Registered, the podcast of the Catholic Register, where we'll be taking a look at the stories that graced all of our platforms over the past week. I'm Mickey Conlon, editor of the Register, alongside reporters Luke Mandato and Quinton Amundson. Welcome, guys.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today.
Always good to be here for Registered.
This week's episode is brought to you by EWTN, the world's largest religious media network. EWTN is offering free ebooks on the lives of St. Carlo Acutis and St. Pier Giorgio Frassati. Download the free ebooks through EWTN.com. You can also watch powerful documentaries about their lives on EWTN On Demand or through the free EWTN app. Well, guys, good to have you again, as always, for this, our record-breaking fifth episode of Registered. So hopefully many, many more to come. So with this fifth episode, we soared to new heights this week as we took to the skies this week in our coverage, in particular the skies, as it turns out, the not-so-friendly skies of the Democratic Republic of Congo. So Quinton, you had a chance to speak with Dominic Villeneuve, who is a missionary pilot for MAF. Maybe you can tell us who MAF is and who Dominic Villeneuve is.
I'd love to, Mickey. Yeah, Missionary Aviation Fellowship is a wonderful organization, actually headquartered in Three Hills, Alberta, and they provide the planes and they also train the pilots to conduct humanitarian missions really across the world, but a lot of emphasis in Africa for sure. We know about Angola, the South Sudan, and Congo. So they fly clean water systems. They fly doctors with life-saving medical supplies. They work with a whole host of NGOs to get them to where they need to go, some of the most isolated areas. And Dominic Villeneuve is in his second four-year term, and he is now located primarily in Bunia, Congo. And he had quite a harrowing experience where a bullet did get into his wing of his aircraft while he was flying over an unfriendly city overtaken by rebels of a capacity for violence. And you might want to read the article for the full harrowing account there. It is borderline miraculous how a bullet could go for the plane and it missed all this critical infrastructure. If one thing would have been hit, he would have had a very difficult time. So he praises God every time he steps into the plane, and that faith was well rewarded on that day and many others, because another striking thing that he said to me, Mickey, was being woken up by gunfire. It's kind of a nightly ritual, like maybe hearing traffic would be for us, living in various cities, across Canada. So it's quite an interesting fellow to talk to.
Yes, it looks like God did have his back, as Dominic says in the story this week. So what do you guys think of this? You guys are around Dominic's age, Luke maybe a little younger. Here's a young guy. He's a pilot. There's plenty of opportunity to fly here at home, yet he's chosen to go over to a war zone. And as you point out, he now considers it home. He was born in Kamloops, I believe it was, or Kelowna?
Yes.
Kamloops it was.
Kamloops.
Kamloops. And now he considers the Congo his home. What do you guys think about this? As young guys, you know what young guys are like. You got a little adrenaline, hey, this could be some adventure. Other guys do it, they're looking for work experience. In fact, a good friend of mine, that's what he did back when Somalia was erupting way back in the 90s. He went over and worked with the UN doing mission stuff. What do you guys think about this?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a mix of everything that you said there, Mickey. Of course, being at that age, you do have that sense of adrenaline and wanting to do something exciting with your life. Although I can't say for myself at my age right now that being a pilot in a country with conflict like that is at the level of adrenaline that I have. But I think it just goes back to our idea of, we talk about it all the time, what our vocation in life is and what we want to do with our lives and how we want to serve in this life, right? We're going to be having our call to service issue coming up next week, where we're going to look into lots of different ways where people sort of look through their own vocations like that. And I think this is just something to him that seems very personal. As much as it is about the adrenaline and the excitement, there's obviously a real calling there for him, and it's something, like you said, that he's found a home in now. So I think that's fantastic. Quinton, what do you think?
Well, he's also found almost like a surrogate family in a way over there, Luke. And I think that the fellowship is absolutely huge to him. He was talking to me during our interview, and before he got on the phone with me, from the Congo, he was reading the CBC, BBC, and other news outlets. And, well, what do you expect? Stories about division, people at each other, various conflicts. And in that environment where you are literally living in a very dangerous area of civil unrest, you have 4 other team members living with you at the compound. You have to rely on each other. You have to be together. You have to be a single unit. And they pray together. They read a chapter of the Bible together. So I think they really love that camaraderie and that togetherness in a world that is so disparate and against each other. Like, when you're in those zones, you have to overcome all your differences and be one instead of just a group of people. So it's quite something that I think that appeals to him daily on the job, is that he has a very tight unit there.
And the other fellows that are there with him, they're all a little older than him, so he's basically the kid of the group. But at
30 years old, he's the youngest. I mean, they're all relatively, close in age, 30 to 42. But I mean, he's been there when he was a 30-year-old, and there were some people in their late 60s, kind of at the end of their career. So it's kind of neat now that he has a little bit of a group that's in that similar generation, millennial. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, definitely the young guy. And, you think about it, he joined when he was 26, and he would have been working with guys 40 to 50 years older than him at his very start. So it was quite an interesting, first experience that he had there.
Yeah. Well, we've got to wish them all the best, because as you say, he's I'm sure that he's come under fire more than once in making these deliveries. So,
well, every single day, he says that, I recognize that God was able to navigate me through, because the security issue or the safety issue, it could have been way worse. There have been close calls before, and it's very refreshing to see that he recognizes the hand of the Almighty every single time when he comes into those sticky situations.
That's right. Yeah, it's not just an isolated issue for this article that we're looking at one specific thing. This is just, like you said, Quinton, it's every day, and that goes to show you who's working behind the scenes and how well they're doing, right? So.
Yeah. Well, and of course we're in Africa with this. Congo is not the only place where the bullets are flying. We've got the situation in Nigeria there. And in fact, if you go to our website, we've been running plenty of stories on the situation, and mostly about the persecuted Christians. I know yourself, Quinton, you've done a number of stories. We recently had from our wire service, OSV News, someone on the ground in Nigeria calling for what's happening there, saying a potential genocide. I know genocide gets thrown out there a little too much nowadays, but there's no doubt that there are issues with Christian persecution. I believe your story on this week was there's an average of 30 Christians that are dying at the hands of Fulani herdsmen each day.
For sure. There has to be work to be done by various groups around the world for any designation of a genocide. But if you look at all these aid organizations and statistical agencies that examine persecuted Christians around the world, there is no doubt that right now Nigeria is the deadliest place in the world for Christians, where people are dying because of their faith. So 30 people per day as a fatality, it is definitely very striking. And I mean, of course, there have been some famous incidents where there have been large-scale attacks at, churches on Palm Sunday. There have been overnight attacks in villages where over 200 people have died in a single night. So there have been quite a mixture. So in this story, we had a little bit of a blended perspective. I did get to speak with Father Oliver Ortiz on the ground from the McCurdy Diocese. So he gave me a sense about how the Fulani and there's also some other groups that are engaging in this activity, largely in the rural and village areas because there isn't as much police presence. And we're also seeing Aid to the Church in Need Canada. Mario Bard, the communications man there, gave me a sense about how they are using money not only to help priests and religious sisters in these trauma-inflicted communities so that they can help the communities heal. They are also logistically trying to help give priests these vehicles and more durable forms of transportation so that they won't be kidnapped in the countryside as they would if they were riding a bike or walking. So they're trying their best to keep these people safe, not always successful because some of these roads are so slow that you get caught anyway, but they're trying their best they can to save these people. And it is quite harrowing to talk to people that know what's going on the ground there.
Yes, and Mickey, I don't know if you saw recently, Pierre Poilievre was actually talking at great lengths in terms of hate-based violence towards Christians. It's not just in Nigeria, but I think he was referring to church burnings here in Canada specifically when he was talking about that. But it just goes to show, much like the last story we were talking about, this isn't one isolated incident. This is a larger theme that people maybe are starting to take note of. And like you said, that statistic about 30 Christians being killed a day there, that's unheard of, really. And it's been unheard of for a while to see that. So definitely coming to a point where people are starting to open their eyes to it. World leaders are starting to open their eyes to it. What do you think about that?
Well, Quinton, again, wrote stories this week about the new hate legislation coming in, Bill C-9, and it brought very much that up because in all the lead up to the introduction of this, seemed everyone was mentioned except Christians. And luckily, Quinton did a little digging, and oh yes, we were just omitted. Christians were just omitted. The government has assured that yes, the Christians will be protected under Bill C-9. So,
but had to be double checked by a reporter.
Yes, well, you'd like to give the government the benefit of the doubt. Sure. I would like to think that that's true. They weren't put on the spot, so.
One thing I should mention, Mickey and Luke, that we're hearing from both the people on the ground and also our, the various groups in Canada that are concerned about the problem. The number one thing that they want Canadians to do to help the plight of Nigerians, get on your knees and pray, and that is the ultimate, thing that we have at our disposal. And I mean, speaking out and, potentially if you resonate with our coverage and go to the website if you want to share, what we're, some of the stories that we've done in other organizations, getting the word out is always helpful to shine a spotlight on, the bad, ill-timed things happening in the world today.
Well, getting on your knees and pray, maybe getting a little breakfast in you as well, is where we go to next, because back home here in Canada, actually just in Stouffville, just north of Toronto, Luke had the chance to go and, as every journalist loves to do, take a free breakfast. All right, so tell us about the men's breakfast from Iris Ministries that you attended last week.
Yeah, Mickey, it really was just about the free breakfast, just incredible food.
Oh, come on. It wasn't just the free breakfast.
Okay. I can't go as far to say it was just for the free breakfast, but I can say that this was an exciting sort of venture for me as a journalist. A good buddy of mine that I coach football with runs as a board member there with Irish Ministries. Irish Ministries GTA, sort of a subsect of Irish Ministries Canada. And he's launching with one of his business partners and another member of Iris Ministries a men's breakfast group, and he had recommended me coming out to check it out, not as a journalist, but just as a friend and as a person. Of course, it's hard for me to take my journalism cap off if it has anything to do with Christianity. Of course, just nature of the business. But I decided to go. I decided to check it out. Like you said, it's just up in Stouffville, which is a short drive for me. And I was blown away by what I saw. This was designed to be sort of a ecumenical interfaith men's breakfast for all denominations of Christianity to come together. I had gone in, like I said, as a reporter, thinking I was going to be, broken up and maybe put over here because of my Catholic beliefs, and there'd be people over here that believe something else. But nothing was checked at the door, as I said. So we all joined together. It was an early thing. It started at 6:30 in the morning last Friday. And we all just really gathered, and it was a great time of fellowship between men. We talked about issues that men face in society today, especially Christian men, what the role of Christian men is in today's society, how masculinity has sort of been, I want to say, undermined in recent times, why that's a negative thing for Christian men, which I think is a whole other conversation. And then we spent some time in worship together, worship music. I know Luke Weaver, the gentleman that was putting it on, is very involved in Iris Ministries music. So he led us in worship through song. We broke into scripture and did a little bit of Bible study together. And then it was just a good morning of fellowship with people that, to be honest with you, Mickey, I may not have connected with had I not gone to this. They certainly wouldn't have been in my local parish. But nonetheless, these are people that love Jesus and love scripture and wanted to get to know me and get to know each other based on what we have in common and not our differences. So I just thought that aspect of it was pretty incredible. At the end, we decided, I say we as the people there, as participants, decided that we wanted to make this a weekly thing. So the next gathering is going to be actually tomorrow, October 3rd, and it's going to be reoccurring every Friday where men from any denomination can get together and do what we did last Friday. So it was a great experience, I would say. Quinton, if you want to add
that sounds really good, Luke. I mean, I think of the quotation, strong men create good times. And I mean, I think that if we want to have a country where, we really are able to have a renewal of the values that can make our country, as great as possible, we need to have the leadership of men who are, fully informed by their faith, are not afraid to be, that traditional, that masculine presence in their home and their work and in their churches. And it's that whole iron sharpens iron thing that it sounds like is going on with this group. So, I mean, if it could be a weekly thing, if somehow conversations could be had so that this gets expanded into other areas throughout the GTA and ideally across the country, it could only lead to great things happening.
Absolutely. Yes. Weaver and his partner, Albert, were already very adamant about, hoping that this expands and hoping this goes on to other areas within the GTA, hoping to grow it. I was worried at first a little bit that it was going to be a little bit too evangelical, or like they maybe just want to get you in the door. But I was just pleasantly surprised to see, Luke Weaver said himself, we want you to take what you learn here, the discussions you have here, bring it back to your church, bring it back to your parish, bring it back to your personal life, wherever you come from, sort of that idea of growing where you're planted. He's not here to bring people to his church. He's here to, like you said, Quinton, bring strong men to where they belong, wherever they belong. So that was great.
Well, as it always comes down to, there's one God. We all worship one God. So why can't we get together? So it's good to see things like this. So, well, Quinton, you've alluded to, Luke, you've alluded to your burgeoning Bill Belichick career that I guess if this journalism thing doesn't work out. So you connected with another coach, and well, I'll let you take over from here. And a little amusing thing that happened there.
For sure, Mickey. Bill Belichick, that's high praise. I know he's a big defensive coach. I'm more on the offensive side of things, maybe like a young Bill Walsh we could go instead, but I'll take Bill Belichick as a comparison.
How about Don Matthews, the good Canadian fella, the Canadian Football League?
Could do Don Matthews as well. Yep, for sure. Yes, as you were alluding to there, Mickey, I had the chance to speak with Nick Vescio, who had just recently earned the 2025 Coaches Excellency Award. It's one of the highest, I think the highest award for coaches within Ontario for his work at James Cardinal McGuigan down in Toronto, part of the Toronto Catholic District School Board. His work was recognized for his time spent with the track and field team, leading them to 3 straight OFSA titles. He also founded the school's first football program, which has sort of been blossoming in recent years. He runs some of the high performance athletics there at the school. It was just a great little chat with him, sort of almost a call to service chat about how he got into coaching. Nick Vescio was a high level football player here in Canada for many years. It was actually a neck injury that sidelined him and brought him into the world of coaching. But to get into sort of what you were leading into there, we're having this great conversation for this article, which is online now. If anyone wants to take a read, it's a great read about his coaching life and his personal faith and what that's meant to him throughout that. But we're having this chat, and I was apologizing to him for not giving him a call sooner. I let him know that as Mickey said, I coach football on the side as well. We actually had a practice one night that I was supposed to call him. And it turns out that one of the teams that I coach is going to be playing Vescio's team, I believe, next Friday in an organized game. So it was sort of this weird, yeah, thanks for the interview. That's great. Fantastic story. And now you're going to try and kick my butt this Friday. So it was interesting to say the least. So the team is the varsity team at Huron Heights based in Newmarket. Huron Heights football team is going to be taking on Cardinal McGuigan's varsity team next Friday. So I guess from going from the phone to the touchline to the pitch, if you want to call it that, from the sidelines, will be an interesting angle for sure. But looking forward to seeing him on the field.
Well, I know we're talking ecumenism and that in this, but go Catholic school.
Go Catholic school. There you go.
All right. So sorry, Luke,
It's okay.
Got to go with that.
Got God on his side.
God's on everyone's side. Let's not forget that. So, all right. Well, I think that's going to bring this episode to a close. So thanks, guys, for joining us. I'd like to thank you out listening to us for joining us as well. And we hope you can join us next time for Registered. We're doing this weekly, and we hope to continue for many, many, many years to come. So meanwhile, for all your Catholic news, be sure to stay informed by going to our website at catholicregister.org. And definitely I have to thank as well our sponsor this week, EWTN, the world's largest religious media network. EWTN is offering free ebooks on the lives of St. Carlo Acutis and St. Pier Giorgio Frassati. Those can be download the free ebooks through EWTN.com. You can also watch powerful documentaries about their lives on EWTN on demand or through the free EWTN app. So again, guys, thanks very much for joining us, and take care.